This episode is sponsored by VAS LLC, leadership coaching firm that I actually run. We are running a special right now for business owners. We will take on any process and improve it for you for $1,000. You might be thinking as a business owner, Michael, $1,000 for one process? That sounds insane. Well, let me tell you real quick. You could have so much waste in your process that it's causing you 4, 5, 6-figure priced problems. My question to you is a 4-figure solution worth it for solving that problem? Welcome to Kansas City Business Cast. This is your host, Michael Reisinger. Again, we are between season 5 and season 6. And so while we're doing that, I'm going to keep this going. I'm going to keep putting out episodes. And that's the way this show will run basically from now until whenever God says, hey, let's go to the next thing. Okay. So I wanted to take a moment on an episode to kind of talk about this concept of wearing clown makeup as a content creator or a business owner or running a nonprofit or going on any endeavor that you're spearheading by yourself or with your family or a small group of folks that you're deciding to do a startup with. Okay. For those who don't know what clown makeup is, it is kind of like a new meme culture thing where, when somebody is doing something that is cringy or cringe-worthy, or something that makes them look foolish, or other people think they look foolish, that's what's called putting on the clown makeup. And you've probably seen these memes that have been going around basically for the last 3 years. When there's like a public topic, some influencer says, hey, all of you who believe in such and such, this is what you look like. Okay. And it's a picture of a clown. And I was inspired to kind of make an episode about this, thinking about my own moments in my life when I have done cringy things, or, I have maybe been classified as a clown, either publicly or silently, mostly silently, I think, by other folks in, things that I've tried to do in my professional life, basically. Okay. So, just to kind of start off with an example, the setting is 2016. I'm working for a major healthcare organization. I'm almost 300 pounds overweight, sweating through my clothes, and I am asked to do a presentation in front of a group of about 150 people. Packed auditorium. Long story short, there was an improvement event that we did, where we took on HR processes, the recruitment process, and I was asked to present basically a short 1-minute piece of this presentation along with a group of my peers. There's about 12 of us in this workshop for the week. And I was supposed to present on something that I was very knowledgeable about and, had a large amount of input in during the week. I was improving a recruitment process and I was supposed to speak for 1 minute. And I basically was such a terrible public speaker, or at least in my eyes, I was. And long story short, I'm sweating through my clothes and really kind of hyperventilating at the thought of presenting this information in front of an auditorium of 150 plus people. It was also being broadcasted to everyone in our organization. And I think at the time there was 11,000, 12,000 people in this healthcare system that I had to present to. And so I just basically overpsyched myself out in my head, and I stuttered and hesitated in my 1 minute of shame. I say 1 minute of shame versus 1 minute of fame, which is what it could have been. And basically came off that stage feeling very defeated. And I'll never forget one of my buddies, Sean, who was a vice president over, I believe, company culture or community engagement at the time, telling me, hey, man, I thought you did great. And I confessed to him, man, I thought I did terrible. I was stuttering, and it's so embarrassing because I know this subject matter. And I'll never forget what he said to me. He said, this is how we grow. In other words, Michael, this is how you grow. Savor this feeling, savor the embarrassment, commit to doing better. And so after a couple more of these types of situations where I learned that public speaking was an area of opportunity for me to grow and improve in, I actually joined the local Toastmasters chapter. And I would actually encourage Toastmasters for anybody who is wanting to be a public speaker or speak publicly, professionally, or even for something that you're passionate about. you'd be surprised that even the subjects that you know really well, when asked to present on those topics, how crazy your nerves can get when you're speaking in front of groups. Okay. Um, there have been other examples along this podcast journey, things that you've never seen and you'll never will see, things that I've edited out of conversations with previous guests where maybe I went on a tangent. I actually went on a Deadpool tangent with a guest previously in this podcast's very early beginnings, where I made this outlandish comparison to something that they had gone through, to a moment in the Deadpool movie when Ryan Reynolds, it's the first Deadpool, when they are torturing him and trying to get him to mutate, and they put him in that uh not bariatric, hyperbaric, that hyperbaric chamber, and they're basically trying to starve his cells from oxygen to get his cells to mutate. And I made this comparison, and as I was editing the episode, I could hear my guest, this is when it was audio only, my guest was going, okay, like just along for the ride with me as I made this crazy 5-minute tirade about how, what they had been through sounded a lot like what Deadpool went through. Okay. So yeah, that really happened. That was a really cringy moment. I've had graphics that I've posted. I've had reels that I've made that have done terribly, where I've had some of the most vocal supporters in my life that are, had praised everything up to that point. They went silent and basically communicated their feelings about it through that silence. Right. And then there was a couple of ones that I asked, friends and peers about, and they said, yeah, bro, that ain't it. That's not it, man. That angle you took. Another thing that I've sort of been working out over the years is my own frustrations with the lack of engagement that, my personal business endeavors have made. I'm really trying to make something out of myself and for my family, and trying to serve people in a new way, in ways that I never was trained to or learned or thought possible through VAS LLC. And so I've been in some cringy business moments where, I thought I read a business owner correctly and I recommended a solution to them, and they said, no, actually, that's not it. And countless other times in my professional career, as I have tried to develop myself as a coach or a person who can really key into the needs of others, it has not come natural to me. And I don't think that the arrival point that most of us are looking for, I don't know that it ever truly comes. I don't know that we ever feel truly like we've made it, right? Or that we're free from the cringeworthy days, or we're free from the clown makeup days, which is my whole point, right? And so I wanted to kind of start off with those personal stories to let you know that if you think I'm a great podcaster or a great speaker, or you're motivated by what we do on this show, it was not always this way. Okay. And so really my whole point here is to say that to become good at our craft or get our 10,000 hours, we are going to have so many moments where we fail, or we fall on our face, or we have cringy moments where we want to quit, moments where we want to give up. And those are the moments that we should really lean into and really take an inventory of ourselves to say, whew, deep breaths. What happened there? Why do I not feel good about that? Or why did that not land well with my client? Why did that not land well with the room? Well, as we start to look through those things with a clear head, and maybe hopefully get some good, honest, candid feedback from people who want to see us grow, only then can we improve, right? I think I heard somebody say it really well on a podcast back in the day. No one ever taught me how to be a good husband. I actually had to be a really crappy husband before I could be a good husband. I had to be a terrible friend so that I could learn what being a good friend is. We've all dealt with moments in our career where, to be really good at what we do, say you work in operations, say you're an electrical engineer, say you're a project manager, you had to make some really crazy mistakes, right? To get good so that you could learn how to act in the future, how to avoid said, issues and cringeworthy moments and clown makeup moments moving forward, right? And so much of becoming good at what we are aspiring to do requires us to fail and learn from our failures. And in a almost seemingly failure obsessed business thought influencer culture where failure is almost seems to be praised, I have learned that there is something to that. I had a previous guest on season 4, and he said, the reason why I've been so successful in business is because I will try a thing 3 times before the next guy even gets the courage to try it once. Very powerful statement there, right? And so, really, our ability to succeed is fueled by a line probably wrapping around the world at least once or 2 or 3 times over of mistakes, okay? And moments where we were super cringe and we didn't even know it. But as we learn and we continue to keep doing, and if we stay consistent, we will continue to learn and grow from those situations. So I wanted to say in this moment, this sort of lull between seasons with Kansas City Business Cast, going back to what I said in episode 54, I am looking for feedback for this podcast. Okay. I'm looking for feedback on how to be a better host, how to bring on, different guests in different spaces. So if you've been watching this show and listening to this show for any point in time, I'm really interested in hearing your feedback. And I'm not hard to find, right? We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. You can shoot me a DM. Some of you have my email address. If you don't, you can email michael.vasllc@gmail.com. Again, that's michael.vas, Victor Alpha Sigma, LLC@gmail.com. Okay. So you have to be willing to make mistakes. The other thing that I heard recently was from my friend Cam F. Awesome. He said this on another podcast, and y'all know he was on our show before, episode 18. Cam's really good at talking about learning from our failures. And he made this comparison to when we're kids, we're not really afraid to fail, right? We're willing to try things. And, with that open curiosity, we find out what we're really good at. And anybody who's an adult listening right now, you can probably think of something that you embraced when you were a kid. Maybe it was learning how to play clarinet or drums or saxophone or drawing or painting or sports that you were really good at because you were not afraid to fail. You weren't afraid to train. You were obsessed with it, right? And you became obsessed with this thing that you eventually became really good at. Or maybe you were a natural at it. And then by virtue of continuing to practice, you perfected that craft and you got really good about it. Ask yourself as an adult today, how open are you to trying new things? How open are you to actually failing at something new or being brave enough to suck at something new, which I believe John Acuff talks about in some of his books. But, somewhere along the line, I think Cam's point was somewhere along the line, we lose our childlike wonder. We lose that dream and go into the unknown and, without knowing we're going to fall on our face or when we're going to fall on it. But we have this sort of enthusiasm and this zeal. And I feel like so often what happens with a lot of us is we go into the workforce and maybe we're really good at something, but we don't see the value in that, or our employer doesn't see the value in that, or our tribe or our current friend set or family, they don't see the value in that. So what we start to do is we start to shove it down, or we start to stifle it or close our eyes and pretend like it's not there. And what happens is we start to try and conform. Okay. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about like life as a rebel is the way to go, because there are certain areas in life where, you do want to conform. Okay. Manners are a great example. Paying your bills, paying off your debts, things like that. Those are things that you want to make sure that you are doing, right? Because the consequences are very bad. So there are moments where we have to conform. But when we're talking about our mindset, okay, and the ability to think big and think, I know it's overused, but outside of the box, but to think like there is no box again, and actually think in terms of like, if I didn't have all of this trauma or these situations from my past, what would I do differently? If I hadn't been burned so many times trying to do this hobby, Maybe it's like trying to make a professional musician career or whatever, and playing in front of some crowds that you've bombed in front of, right? What would I do if I didn't have any of that? Can you try and think with a fresh perspective? Okay. If you're trying to be a podcaster, you're trying to start your own small business, can you think big again? That is really, where it's all at. That's where this journey is. Okay. And so if you are able to do that, I truly believe the nuggets and the wisdom for all of us is behind the thing that we are afraid to do. Okay. I'm not saying the thing we're afraid to do is maybe the thing that we're meant for, but it's something that we're probably meant to conquer. Okay. We're probably meant to conquer, fight through our own cringe, and get through that moment. As I say all of this, part of me realizes that I'm riffing here with you right now. I'm riffing, just you and my camera and my microphone, and somebody's going to listen to this. A handful of you are going to listen to this. So if you are inspired by this, give me your feedback. If you can think of ways that we can improve on this show, I want to hear that. Okay. We're working on some big things. We've got some big dreams, some big aspirations. And so I just want to know from the audience, what are your cringy moments? If you're listening on Spotify, drop them in the comments. You can leave comments there. Drop them in the comments on YouTube. Shoot us a message as we post reels from this episode. We'll be making sure that we maybe add some votes to the reels on Instagram. Let us know. Give us your feedback. Let us know your cringy moments. And then maybe too, let us know what you're currently facing right now. What are you currently leaning into that you're trying to change or that you're trying to get better at? Okay. And as always, if I have not made this clear, in fact, I know I haven't made it clear on this show. If you are listening to this show and you have noticed what we've been doing, or there's a particular guest that's a favorite in our catalog of folks that we've had on, where have you been inspired by Kansas City Business Cast? I would love to know. Please remember to drop those in the comments. Shoot me a message. If you've got guest ideas, please bring those to me individually. Ask me, hey, Michael, have you ever considered bringing so-and-so on the show? I would be more than happy to learn about new guests, new things we can try, and what we can improve. Also, what we're doing good on this show, because I want to make sure I double down on that in the remainder of 2025 so that we can continue to learn and fight through our own cringe and improve this podcast. Thanks so much for listening. We got an amazing guest lineup coming up in season 6. I appreciate you all.